Okay, people. So now it's like 4:30 in the morning. I'm so tired that I'm doing this. I don't want to move. I have a problem with the bottom of my feet. They really, really hurt. For whatever reason, I don't know. But this is a blanket for the couch or kids or whatever, right? Amari's always throwing off his blanket. All the time. But these are nice. These are blankets from when Andre was a baby. That's why the ribbing or piping, I think, no, is this called piping? I can't remember what, binding, the binding, this is binding. It came off, you can see. So, I don't know, it's not all here. Some of it looks like it's gone, and that's fine. I'll just finish where it's ripped. And then, actually, I have around the house this stuff. If I wanted to, I could do this, but it looks like I just cut it off because it's dangerous, right? When it's hanging off. But it's better if it has a piping on it. Right? You can see. It holds up better, right? So anyway. Oh, this one's... So anyway, I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, I'm picking through this. I've been organizing, as you know. But I kind of created, so before I go too far ahead with this, I'm going to sit here and do this. I'm just going to talk for a bit. And, just stick with the format, right? I'm a YouTuber. How many times in a day do you say YouTube? Better yet, how many times in a day do you think about YouTube? That's the question. You might not be saying it, but it might be running through your head. Right? So, in light of that, and the things I have been talking about, today at some point, I'll probably do this for another hour or two. If you notice, I'm conserving my energy. I'm going to change my glasses here. I'm conserving my energy because, one, my feet hurt. And I'm having a real problem with my eyes, people. And just whatever. This situation. For whatever reason. And, what do you call it? See, it's 4:30, going on 5 in the morning. And I've been up since 12:30. I went out shopping with Tisha yesterday because Amari had a dentist appointment. His first checkup. Which, his teeth are fine at this point, but his back molars aren't coming in. So the dentist said that in 6 months, do a little follow-up. And if it doesn't look like his teeth are coming in, then they'll do an x-ray to see where they are growing. And this is being done just through a regular dental office with a dentist that I met and really like and found him to be very caring and a good dentist. So I had already made plans to take Amari there. At first he was kind of like, well, I don't really work with children. And I said, yeah, but, he's special needs and it would be nice just to touch base on that. So long story short, the pediatrician wanted to send us back to the children's hospital to see a specialist for what Amari had done to him yesterday. Right? And at this point, there's, his teeth are fine. It's just his back molars are taking a little longer to come in, that's all. For whatever reason. So, that's good, right? So in another 6 months, we'll do a follow-up. And then if this dentist feels that whatever's going on with Amari's mouth isn't something that he's able to deal with, then, of course, the referral will go to the children's hospital. But at this point, we don't need to see a specialist. regarding Amari's teeth. And then, because I was out, right? See, I'm going to show you today how I create work for myself. Right? I don't mean to do it purposely. It's more like I'm an opportunist, right? In terms of finding good deals when it comes to groceries. And because I don't get out that much anymore, people, seriously, I get out maybe once, twice a month. That's it. The rest of the time, I'm in the house or in the yard, one or the other. And so when I go out, it becomes like a culture shock for me when I go to the grocery store, right? Because I haven't been there for so long. And not only that, but just the cost of food and, you know, and how quickly the grocery bill can add up, right? I mean, it's always been like that with 5 kids, but, you know, when you buy a roast for $5 compared to anywhere between $15 to $30 for the same kind of roast, and you're still raising children at that manufactured poverty level, people, right? Oh, it's rough. It's rough. So anyway, you know, but you know me, right? I grabbed the bull by the horns, eh? So yesterday, I was in the mall, a mall I hadn't been into for a long time, and I ended up coming across some really good vegetable deals in terms of discount vegetables. And then I came across discount meat in terms of hams with bones in them, and pork loin with the fat in them with the little bones. I don't know. I think they're just whatever they're called. I'll show you tomorrow, right? Well, today. I'll show you sometime today, right? Because if you bake it with whatever, and it releases a lot of fat into the juice, and that's what I want for Amari. Because initially, I bought it for Amari. It's all Amari's fault. I bought everything to make meals for Amari that I'm going to freeze, right? But because Andre likes that stuff too, and I have so much of it, because I spent like $87 on discounted vegetables, basically. There was maybe 5 things in that whole 4 boxes that I bought full that were of regular price. Everything else was discounted, and I'll show you today. What I'll do is I'll upload this, and then I'll do my video throughout the day, and I'll try and get it uploaded by the evening. Just to show you, because I'm going to be showing Tisha. I'm teaching Tisha. I'm trying to teach Tisha that if, you want to save money for your family and be able to have quality food available when you need it, you have to find time to create work for yourself at opportunist. I want to say opportunist. I can't say it. It's opportunist level. I mean, like, who goes out and buys $87 worth of vegetables in 4 boxes when they're, like, kind of busy doing other things? Well, a person who has, a handicapped child that needs, specialized food, and yams is one of them. Parsnips is another one. Cucumbers and apples. I'm going to juice the cucumbers and the apples, right? And then I'm going to freeze the juice. I'm sitting here debating whether I should pasteurize the cucumbers and the apples, and then I don't think I should have to, because Amari is not under 1 year old, right? He's over 2. So he should be fine, and he doesn't have a poor immune system. Like, he doesn't have any autoimmunity disorders. So he can drink cucumber and apple juice. So because my juices have been going down in terms of the juicing that I did before with my videos, I need to replenish them. So it just so happened they had a lot of cucumber on sale, and I picked up a few bags of apples that were on sale to mix the two together. And, a few other miscellaneous carrots, right, which some of them will go to pumpkin out in the rabbit hutch. Some of them I'll put in with the juice. The carrots I might pasteurize, but I don't think I would the cucumber or the apples, right? And, of course, everything will be pretty much washed and peeled and before it gets juice. And then the cucumber pulp, you can actually even try and make a cucumber soup and then freeze those in containers, and you can have that as well, right? You can freeze cucumber. I Googled it. So, between the meat that I bought and the vegetables that I bought, what I've done is I've basically created myself 3 days of work. Well, at least 2. Right? Which is going to take me 2 days away from doing other things. And tomorrow was technically, I was supposed to start hitting up the living room in the basement. That's what I was supposed to do. This is where my kids get mad at me. This is where they don't necessarily understand that, for me to spend $87 in vegetables and take 2 days of my life to 3 days of my life out to process it, whether I'm freezing it as is, canning it, right, dehydrating it. I still use dehydrated carrot from 2011 sitting in a Rubbermaid bin. I still have dehydrated carrot in those, big glass, let's get drunk moonshine wine bottles. I do. And not even 2 weeks ago, I think it was, I made carrot soup for whatever. I shred the carrot. I've done a video on that. You shred the carrot, put it in a bag, throw it in the freezer. You're pretty much good to go, right? It was going through my freezer. I pulled out the bag. It was, it had little crystals on it. I ran it under the water, threw it in the pot, went to my old Rubbermaid bin from my 2011, what is it called? Shredded carrots. And I said, Tisha, come here. And I'm looking, and do you see what I'm doing? And I showed her, I put in like 3 tablespoons of those shredded carrots or whatever it was in with the other carrots that came in from the freezer. And within, an hour or two, boy, she was like, oh, this soup is so good. So, dehydrating, depending on what you're dehydrating, and carrots hold up really well, people. They really do. So anyway, I don't know. I kind of went off track there. What I'm trying to say is, because I got all this food now, I have to cook it up. And I'm specifically making little TV dinners. I have some little plastic containers downstairs with lids that have been sitting in a bin for God forever. Because, every now and then I do these things. Right? What I didn't like when I was doing these things was when you have a lot of kids and you make what I'm going to make and they get into it and they start eating it, they don't necessarily look after your containers. They throw away the lids. That's a big one. You have all these containers with no lids. Or you have all these lids with no containers. One or the other, never both. So as a poor woman, you can only afford so much and only rag for so much too, right? So anyway, these things have been sitting in a bin for a long time. And I guess now is the time to use them because, I will see what jars I have around the house, but these are more Andre size. So what happens, you make the food, you put it into the container, you freeze them, and then when you're ready to eat them, These are probably microwavable, but I wouldn't recommend it. You just put it into a small pan or a frying pan. You can put it into a small pan and heat it up in the oven. Or you can put it into a small pan and just put a little bit of water with it and just, heat it up slowly that way. And it's just as good, if not better, because microwaving destroys the molecules of the food. It alters it. Just remember that. So I do not encourage microwaving. That's one thing you won't see me do. We have enough problems. We don't need to radiate ourselves and our food while we do it. So, because of that, I'm going to be on a detour for a couple, 2-3 days, just processing this food, right? What I paid for in $87 in vegetables and created myself a lot of stress while I did it, would have costed me regular price, oh God, double that, if not more, depending on what, right? At least double. So, you can't go wrong with that. And then the meat, they were selling these hams at $30. Then they brought them down to 50%. Then they added on another $5 off. I was walking out of there with $10 for each ham. So I bought 4 of them. I wanted to buy all of them, but I just settled for the 4 because I ended up getting the pork because I wanted the fat for the juice for Amari's yams that I bought. So it's all Amari's fault. But Andre gets to benefit because now I'm going to actually make something for him that's his size portion and easy for him to have one when he wants one. It's easy. He likes to make French toast for himself, so I'm sure he wouldn't mind. He wants to grow up to be a chef now, right? So he tries to cook when he can, when he thinks he can get away with it. Right? He really does. So I told him already he can help fill up the containers when Nana's ready. So what's going to end up happening today, and this is the point of this video, I suppose, is I'll sit here for another hour or 2. I'm tired, but not crash out tired, because that's what happens. And then my body sleeps for however long it wants to sleep, and in this case, I probably slept for 2 hours for whatever reason, woke up at 12:30 and been running around since, and it's now probably going on 5:30 in the morning. And I got a full day, people. For the most part, you'll see. I'll show you. But I don't feel bad about it because I have saved myself hundreds of dollars today. And by the time I make the food, it will go into more hundreds of dollars today. Because if you were to buy it as a TV dinner in a grocery store, you can factor in another 200 to 300% on what you've already saved. And that's the point. And so, but what happens though is it pulls me away from other responsibilities like getting into the basement and into the living room area and really doing a sweep in there, because I have to sweep it out. Like I'm taking out Shmei's books off the mantelpiece and I'm moving them down by her room. I've already got a bookshelf there. I just need to hammer in the bookshelf or put a bracket on it, right, so it doesn't tip over, right? And I'm going to transport those books in there, and then whatever else books don't go in that particular bookshelf, I'll just move them into her room. And then, of course, that's the Soul Train for Shmei, because those books will go out in the mail sooner or later. They're here. And there's the crock pot books. They're over here too. And the envelopes are down the hall. And we know I'm clearing off the table. Lucy's box is there. Right? So I figure I'll go downstairs. Here's what I figure. I'll go downstairs and start in the living room. I just mainly have to wash dishes to begin with. Because when the kitchen was done, everything was pushed into the living room from those kitchen cupboards that were ripped out. And they were just kind of all piled up on the table, among with other kitchen stuff, right? And my son needed time to kind of lay claim to... He doesn't want me going in there and taking over every cupboard. Right? So I've been kind of avoiding it, and as I avoid that process, things are just sitting in the living room, and it's not going in the cupboard where it should be in the cupboard. And things that are in the other cupboards should be sorted out, washed, reorganized. And then, like I said, I'm moving out Shemai's books. That kind of stuff, so my son can have the mantelpiece, or Tisha can use the mantelpiece, whatever. Whoever uses the mantelpiece, it won't be me anymore. Right? I bought extra books, put them down there. If Shemai was here and moved out, she would have taken them with her, for the most part. Right? But because she's not here and nobody else really wants them, well, we don't need them because they're a second set. They were a set for whoever was going to move out that wanted them was more than welcome to take them. And the only person who wanted to do that was Shemai. So I have to move them off the mantelpiece now. But I have approximately $200 worth of food. Well, maybe not that much. 100 on sale. 125 on sale. So we'll just round it off to about $125 on sale that I bought meat and vegetables to make what I'm going to be making over the next couple of days as I freeze it. Namely for Amari, obviously Alea May, and Andre. So I'm going to ask Tisha to peel. This is how I figure I'm going to tackle this problem. I'm going to ask Tisha to peel all the yams, because I got like 5 bags full of yams. And they need to be cooked up all at one time. Because that was the reason to buy them, right? So that means I have to pull out my big pots, which I've just moved into my little storage bathroom over there. So I have to pull out 2 big pots, at least 2, right? And we're going to start with the yams tomorrow. I'll go in the basement, and as I'm in the basement, Tisha can sit and peel yams. And when the yams are done, peeled, she can bring them to me, and I'll cook them downstairs. That's what I'm going to do. Because there's actually more kitchen counter down there. But as she's peeling, I'm downstairs washing dishes and, really doing an inventory on things, that type of thing, right? And then when the yams come down, I'll cook the yams as I continue doing whatever it is that I'm doing, because I have other vegetables I have to process too, right? And then after they're cooked, I'm going to put them in the fridge in Auntie Shmai's room and move on to the next vegetable. whatever that, like parsnips. I'll cook the parsnips up and get them ready. And put them in the bowl and put them in the fridge. The hams, I don't have to cook because they're already pre-cooked. But I think one of them I might, again, because I want those juices, or maybe I'll even do both. It doesn't matter because, well, it depends. Maybe cook one, and the other one I don't have to cook. And the one I do cook, really kind of like spoof it up with pineapple and brown sugar and some ginger and that kind of stuff, right? And then you get those juices with those flavors. And then, of course, you have to cut everything. Get it all ready. So I'll be cutting. Not tomorrow, but maybe the next day. And then that goes in the fridge. This is how I'm thinking, right? And, Tisha won't be here on the weekend, but she'll be here tomorrow, so she can help tomorrow with that. And then I'm pretty much on my own, and because it kind of has to be done fast because we're dealing with discounted vegetables and discounted meat, I have like a 2-3 day window, right, to get this stuff done, to get my maximum dollar amount without having my vegetables starting to spoil. If they begin to spoil because I can't get to everything, then for me it goes into the compost. It's not so bad, right? But outside of that, I think with what I bought, I think it can go pretty fast as long as I kind of coordinate my time around it. Right? Just break it up and put it in the fridge as it's getting ready to go into those containers, whether they're glass or plastic, and then into the freezer. And I probably would have saved myself, we'll ask my son after it's all said and done, because he shops more than I do, but he was telling me that those chicken pot pies that I made, and I bought some beef too. I like to mix it up. The chicken pot pies that I made, they sell at like $6 in the store. And what did it cost me to make? 50 cents? $1? I don't remember what I priced it at, but it wasn't very much, people. And it just came from old turkey bones. And the only reason I decided to do that was because my son spent $32 for a what do you call that? A fresh turkey. It wasn't frozen, and because it wasn't frozen, that's why it was $32. And it wasn't much bigger than a freaking roasting hen, right? Like, it was not a very big turkey, so I just couldn't justify him spending that kind of money without getting my juice out of the bones. So he's been eating them. He likes them. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make, and I could even go as far as making macaroni with cheese and put it in with whatever I'm doing, right? So we'll have ham. We've got pork loin. We've got beef. We've got parsnips. We've got carrots, potatoes, lots and lots of yam. We've got apples and cucumbers, some tomatoes, some peppers, right? That kind of stuff. I'm pretty much just going to cook it all up. But it creates work for me. It just takes me away from other things to do. But it's important that I do this because it's convenient and it works best, especially if you're busy, right? So for now, I'm just kind of doing this, almost done, getting it ready to sew. I won't sew it tonight because, what happens is this stuff piles up. I've already moved a big pile out of here of what needs to be sewed just to make room for this other stuff. But it's wintertime and I need this blanket. It's a really good blanket. I've had it for years. Andre's 9. So at least 9 years. At least if it wasn't my kid's blanket. From when they were little. Right? One of those hoarding moments. You know, hanging on to baby blankets. Because this is more like a baby blanket, right? But, you know. They had Winnie the Pooh blankets when they were little, so for all I know, these could be from back then. Really. They could be. The problem with this is you kind of want to baste it before you sew it. Because even if you sew it with the machine, on this side it will look like you're catching the lip, but on the other side the fabric will curl out like that and you won't get it. So after I pin it, I'm going to have to baste it. For some reason, look how much I'm off. You see that? So, in that case, you just pick it out and move it over. So, yeah. Here, why don't I show you my vegetables? And then I'm going to upload this video. And we're just, oh yeah, I wanted to see. I am going to attempt to try and make this petition. I'm going to try to write this petition. To present to the court when I file this notice of claim. And after I write the rough draft, I don't know how long it's going to take me because, as you can hear what I just said, I created myself a lot of work, which takes away from other things. And then don't forget, I have to recuperate after I've gone through this cooking spree. Because it's like cooking for a Christmas dinner for 25 people, right? In a 3-day period. That's what you're doing here. Which takes up a lot of energy. But at the end, the result will be very good and very cost effective. Right? And, but I am going to attempt to write this petition. And then once I have a basic draft, I don't know what to say, how to say it. I kind of got an idea of where I want to start and how I want to work on building on it. And then, you know, I'm telling you people, and I noticed this, even before I start, I'm already capping it in my head in terms of, okay, if I write a petition, how many pages am I allowed? That was like the second or third thought once I decided that I can't really ask other people to do it for me. I can ask other people to proofread it for me, right? I can do that. I can ask other people for any suggestions in terms of did I miss something or could I have said it better, right? Right? But to ask somebody to actually write it when they haven't lived it wouldn't be very practical in terms of So anyway, I've decided I'm going to write the petition my way. I have to get it out of my head what the cap is, although I need to find out how many characters in terms of the fonts, right? The words, how many characters in your paragraph are you allowed to submit to the server that runs these petitions? Well, obviously it's more than 500, right? Or 500 words. Is it 1,000 words? How many characters are in 1,000 words? Do you see how that cap came in? So I will write what I want to write. I will read it. And because I've already used Google Documents once, I'm just learning. Everything's goopy. It's not coming to me as quickly as I would like. But I will make an attempt to upload it onto Google Documents where you can read it, right? And then we can discuss it, or you can give your suggestion as how I should fix it. And then once I fix it, right, after it's been edited in terms of spelling mistakes or basic grammar or whatever it is, then I'll post it. But from my experience, I would suspect it's not going to go very far from me in terms of I don't have the venues, the pipeline, the river to put it out there. And because of that, I gaslight myself and I say, well, I'm not going to get anywhere with it. Nobody's going to care, right? They're not going to pass it on because I went through that with Andre. I tried to do a GoFundMe for Andre to get a lawyer because legal aid here in British Columbia, Canada, denied me access to a lawyer when I went the first time to legal aid. Right? Because I was told I had to, because I had put in that application for custody for my grandson, which made me a proceeding of the court with the party, I was a party to the proceeding between MCFD, Austin, and Sierra. And then there was me. Only I couldn't get a lawyer because I was denied. So I did a GoFundMe. I put all the information out there, and it went nowhere, and it got shut down. So because of that experience, I'm afraid of failure again, because it's just a form of failure, right? Right? And when you feel like you're a failure, right, it discourages you from doing things. But realistically, I'm the best person to write that petition, right? Because I'm Shimei's mother. So that's how we're going to do it. I'm going to write the petition. I don't know how long it's going to take me. Hopefully within the next couple, 2-3 weeks. Because you can see through my videos that I'm very busy. And I have this problem with creating work for myself, which you will see over the next several days. Because this will be, what do you call, a learning spurt, right? This is where you take a limited amount of funds. And yes, I didn't fully pay Commerce their interest payment of $325 this month because I came across some good food at a discount rate that can save me hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars after I process it and put it into the fridge. And I might even, as I was putting those hams in the fridge, I'm like, cook that up and then can a few jars for Amari. Can a few jars. Just the ham with maybe a little bit of carrot and the broth. That's it. So I might be canning just one batch of ham in broth. I might be. Because he needs that, right? And, so, I don't know. So I'm going to write the petition, and when I'm done, I'll post it online. I'll do a live on it. We'll discuss it, and then I'll tweak it. Like, I'll post the rough draft on Google Documents. We'll go through all that, and then I'll make it official, and then after that, we'll just have to wait and see what happens, right? It's one of those situations where you just have to get back up on the horse. But it's for the greater good of society, and that's what courts are supposed to be there for, is for the greater good of society, right? Not to turn away the victims. Courts are not put in society to turn away the victims. They're supposed to help the victims. Yeah, my eyes are messed up, people, man. I turned off this camera, and I realized that I was going to show you something and I forgot, right? And then I thought, oh, well, no, just next time. And I turned off the lights, and as soon as I turned off the lights, man, my eyes just started going fucking crazy. Like, looking at this paper and reading, and oh my God, you just don't know. Like, it's creating... I don't know how I'm going to get through it, people. That's what I'm trying to say. Honest to God, I don't know how I'm going to get through it. Anyway, look at this. Now, it's beat up diamond. Like, really beat up. I have to clean it. But, do you see? Look at that. Where is it? It's all chipped. Where? Let me see. Big chips off it. And there's some chips right in there. But other than that, it's a big diamond. Do you see? So I figure I'm going to decorate it. What do you think? I think that'll look cool. You're probably wondering where I got it from. It comes with its own stand. See? Just kind of one of those YouTube moments. Not everything in YouTube is perfect, but it's the diamond in the rough, right? Isn't that what it's called? Diamond in the rough? People, we've got a diamond in the rough here. So, as I work on my swords and my angel, I'll work on our diamond in the rough. I'll get some nice little trim. I'll glue it on and make it so that you don't notice those chips so much. So, the other thing I was thinking about, and I actually mentioned this today to Tisha, and after I get off this, I'm going to go and I'm going to show you the vegetables and I'm going to upload this. And then I'm going to lay down and try and sleep for an hour or two. And then I get up, and by 10 o'clock, 10:30, it's hardcore. Okay? So, when we were in the mall, whatever, talking, whatever, and I brought it to Tisha's attention that, okay, everybody knows how I feel about Shimei's ex-boyfriend murdering Shimei with fentanyl. I don't care if his sister watches my videos. I don't care if the sister, whatever, the mother, the ex-boyfriend, because nobody has said anything regarding Shimei other than let it go. She did it to herself. While the sister actually trashes Shimei online. But that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is what I mentioned to Tisha today, saying that if Julian would have known, because he didn't know, nobody knew, people, that Amari had cerebral palsy when Shimei was murdered. Nobody. And if they did, in terms of a doctor, right, they didn't say anything, okay? And, we knew that he was going cross-eyed, but other than that, we didn't suspect that he had cerebral palsy, never mind the severe kind, where the spectrum is 1 to 5, and he's 4 to 5. He falls between 4 and 5 of the spectrum of between 1 and 5. 1 being the least affected. So Amari is the most affected. Affected. A-F-F-E-C-T-E-D. Affected. It's not a... Having brain injury is the effect. Having cerebral palsy is the effect of brain injury at some point, either in vitro or at the time of birth. It's one or the other, people. It can't be both. It happened either when he was growing in her stomach or as soon as he came out. Because I have videos with their medical records documenting symptoms, and they just ignored it. So nobody knew, including the father, the ex-boyfriend. And being that Amari was so much centered around, you're not gonna get him, you just want him for the money. Because when I told Shimei to have the baby, and that even if she didn't want to keep the baby, right? She could either give it up for adoption, right? Or you give me the baby and I'll look after the baby. And as soon as that ex-boyfriend heard that shit, it was a war, people. It was a fucking war. I used to run up my stairs all the time screaming, "You'll never get the baby, you'll never get the baby. You only want the baby for money. You just want Shimei here for money." It was all, you just, like, fuck, it was just money, money, money. And so anyway, after Shimei was murdered on April 11th of 2018, that person came back the next day on April 12th, 2018, and demanded to take the baby because he felt by default he was the father, and that just because he lied about them being in a common law relationship, he lied to the police, he lied to the hospital staff, and within his own lie, he thought he could show up on my doorstep, demand the baby, and jump in the car with his mother and drive off, and I'd never see the baby again, because that's what he told me that would happen. I'll never get the baby, I'll never see the baby. So, but that's when the baby was, in his mind, and in everybody else's mind, healthy. Sure, he was showing signs of being cross-eyed, but not what we know today, people. And being with that said, because his mother has fell off the grid for whatever reason, I'm sure when it gets time to go to court, they'll blame me for it, but nobody stopped them from picking up Mari 3 days a week for their, supervised visit with the father so that daddy could have his parenting time, because Tisha will mention, he's probably, now that he realizes that Amari is severely disabled and is going to require freaking commitment, people, dedication and commitment, right? Long term, with that commitment getting heavier and harder because of, he grows, right? And it's going to require more, right, in terms of effort. He's falling off the grid, and of course, when we get to court, I will be blamed for that because I do YouTube videos. I keep Shimei's story out there and alive, or at least I try. I don't let people just get off scot-free for fucking either killing people or covering it up, right? Would he have killed Shimei if he knew that Amari was on the spectrum of between 4 and 5, which is the most severe of having cerebral palsy? That's actually reduced his life expectancy more than likely to about 45 years old? If he would have known that at 7 months old when Shimei died with Amari, if he knew that Amari was that severely affected with cerebral palsy, would he have murdered Shimei? This is the point. This is why I came back in. This is the point. Would he have murdered her? Would there have been that much urgency to get the baby so that, one, he could go on welfare? That would be the automatic right off the hop. By getting the baby, whoever got the baby would have went on welfare because he wasn't even working, people. He was selling drugs. That's why Shimei was having such a hard time with him and didn't want to be with him. But she was bound to that co-parenting crap that's being pushed out in the internet as if it applies to every single human being on the planet, because it's the yuppie, Y-U-P-P-Y lifestyle, in terms of, I'm a yuppie, yeah, let's go eat our fucking Brussels sprouts and green beans and, what do you call those things? Bean sprouts, with our alfalfa and cheese seeds. The yuppie thing, right? Because it's a yuppie thing. It's not a fucking realistic, courts should not be forcing abusive people together to fucking co-parent. And that's what they do. And they say that's for the benefit of the child when it's not. But if he would have known that Amari was as severely disabled as he is, would he have murdered Shimei to get that baby? He still would have gotten welfare, right? It's just he would have had to deal with the knowledge of coming into Amari having cerebral palsy like Tisha and I came into it, right? And then he would have had taken on the burden of everything that basically Tisha and I have done since that time. He would have gotten a welfare check and a family allowance check, which would have put him as an individual father by himself with one child at about $1,700 to $1,800 a month. In terms of the welfare check would have been, because the NDP came in and gave everybody an extra $100 on their welfare checks with one child, it went up to about $1,150. And that's for your housing, food, everything, right? And then the family allowance on a federal level at that time was coming in at $500 and something, and then the federal government increased it by $100 or something like that. So now it's currently at $600. So that's how you get that between $1,700 to $1,800 a month for yourself and one dependent child to live on. Me, I didn't get an extra $1,200 a month. I got like an extra $250 a month on my welfare check. Well, no, I didn't even get that, people. I didn't even get that. Well, actually, I did, because Andre's on something else. I get money for Andre from the ministry financial department under a 2-year contract based on what was agreed on at court. But he doesn't get no dental privileges. He gets no medication. I have to pay for his medication. I have to pay for all his dental, whereas Amari, through my welfare, is covered for his medication and for his dental as a child under the Healthy Kids program. But Andre doesn't. Don't ask me how that one works. Right? And having Andre on that program compared to having Andre on my welfare check, there is no... I actually receive less, in my opinion. I'd have to really sit down and crunch the numbers. But with Andre being on that 2-year program where it's updated every 2 years and not getting the dental or the prescriptions, even though Andre hardly ever gets prescriptions, I feel I get less than if he was actually with me, and then I would get the GST, right? I get the family allowance, and of course I'd get that $250 increase. Whereas with Andre, I don't get anything. I get a flat rate. At first it was $800. It was supposed to be $800 right up until he was 12. And then once he turned 12, then it was going to go to $9. But I don't get my GSTs. And I don't get his dental covered. And I don't get his prescriptions covered. Right? And I don't get, like on my welfare check, you know how at Christmas time, they'll give you that extra little Christmas bonus. I don't get that for Andre. When they start up school, they give you that little startup for them. I don't get that for Andre. It's just a flat rate. Whereas with Amari, he goes on to my GST, so my GST goes up by a little bit. Obviously he get his family allowance, but my welfare check in itself as a whole only went up by $250. When Amari came into my care and he was finally signed on to welfare with me, right? Whereas if that ex-boyfriend would have gotten Amari, he automatically would have gotten, we'll just say $1,150, right? At first it was $1,050 for one child with an adult, and then when they came in at NDP, they gave an extra $100, so now it's $1,150. So that's what this man would have gotten on top of the family allowance, the federal family allowance, and then of course the GST. So that was a big factor to get rid of Shimei, people. This is what I'm trying to say. But that was the perception of having a healthy child to raise. It's completely different when the child is not able to move, communicate the way we're used to communicating with, and you have to build in special foods and just, keep trying and trying and trying to improve areas that you normally wouldn't even think of twice, right? Because it's a lifelong commitment that's beyond money, right? Would Shimei have been murdered? Would that man have just left Shimei with the baby and moved on with his life? Because he sure in hell wouldn't have been the first man just to leave a woman with a disabled child and move on to the next woman. You don't even have to have a disabled child and men move on to other women, right? But because he wanted the money, people, and his sister thought of, well, if my brother gets the baby, I'll look after the baby, and then I can go on welfare when I get angry with my brother for not looking after his baby. So now Amari's bouncing between that household, between the father, the sister, and the mother, fighting over who's going to look after Amari and get paid. Because you have to remember, when Shimei came out of the hospital, what did I do, people? I brought her upstairs. I gave her back her old room. I told her she could live there for as long as she wanted. It didn't matter if it was 1 month, 6 months, a year, 2 years. For as long as she wanted to stay in that room with the baby, she was more than welcome to do that, because that was the best place for her and the baby. But the one thing that I asked for her not to do was to have Julian come into my house. And at best, I was willing to compromise with having the sister come in at a reasonable time of day, like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and could visit Shimei in Shimei's room with the baby. But outside of that, I didn't want that man coming into my house. She could take him down into the basement and have her little visit in the living room down there if she wanted, but not in my house. But what did those fucking two people do? They were coming to my house 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, going into my fridge, poking around in my shit, running through my fucking house as I'm trying to sleep. Because that was their visiting time. At 3, 4 in the morning. 2 days of that, I said, Shimei, I can't, you need to go back downstairs. And the rooms were being switched over, hadn't quite switched them over yet. That's when they said, oh, come to my mother's house for the week while the rooms are being switched over. And I'm telling you, people, she was only there for like 2 fucking days before she ran out of there, left everything behind, because he started manhandling her as they were demanding her to start paying fucking rent, even though she had already paid her rent here. And they tricked her on the birth certificate. Go into my videos. That story hasn't changed. They may have forgotten about it, but we haven't forgotten about it. Right? So, I'm like really wondering, would he have murdered her if he would have known that Amari was on the spectrum of 4 to 5 on the cerebral fucking whatever, right? Knowing that it just would have been nothing but a life of hardship for him as a father to raise his son without the mother assisting him. Or would he have let Shimei live and be left to raise a disabled child by herself with the support of her family as he moved on to some other bitch? Because the only other motivating factor, there's only so many motivating factors, people, as to why she was murdered. Money was a big one. He thought, get her out, I can pick up the baby next day. I'm the dad. We've been common law. Give me my son. I have a right to be with my son. The second one was she had an affair. But she didn't have an affair, people. She hooked up with her ex-boyfriend that she had been with for 5 years. And their ships just happened to pass. And they reconnected. They made love. And the people who found out about it got fucking jealous. Because Shimei was moving on with her own life. Right? Leaving the past behind her in terms of, you don't want to change your ways, then fuck off. And because she did that, the ex-boyfriend didn't like it. He got jealous, wanted to be spiteful, had already threatened to kill her multiple times, so he just acted on it. Well, the sister said, there you go, bitch, that's what you get for messing with my man, even though that man that Shimei had that little rendezvous with was her man for 5 years before the sister came in to get sloppy seconds. So there's a lot of spite in there because of sex. That little, But I don't think that's the main reason Shimei was murdered. Hell no, I don't, people. I'm thinking, honest to God, if he would have known what he knows now when it regards to Amari, he would have let Shimei live. My daughter, if she just could have had a few more months to live, she'd be alive today. But because there was so much urgency to get that money, right? And the best way to get the money is to get rid of the problem that's in the way to get to that money. And then you fuel in jealousy and anything else that's fucking psychologically going on in there. And then the other thing, and I'm going to leave it on this note, the other thing is I have two different feelings about the two different people that have basically died in my life that are obviously one of the most important things in my life. You can just tell by my videos, right? And I ask myself, what is the difference between Uncle John's death and Shimei's death? Why is it that you feel that when Uncle John, like when I die, right? Why do I feel like I'm going to connect with Uncle John like within an instant? Is it because we used to fight and I'd say, like, get the fuck out of here, you want to go, you go, just don't expect me to come chasing you, right? Because he used to, I'm leaving, you know how people are, I'm leaving, well, go leave, I don't got time to chase you, I'm looking after a family, I'm looking after the house, you really want to fucking run from your problems, I don't care, John. He never ran. But every now and then he'd threaten me that he's leaving. I tell my kids I'm leaving too. Right? So, one time I was so mad I walked down the fucking road and I ended up sitting on the grass. I got a video on that just a couple months ago. I was so frustrated with everything and didn't want to come back. And then I didn't want to get arrested by the cops, and that's what made me come back home. I didn't want to be picked up by the fucking cops on the grass. What are you doing there, Miss Chorney? Well, I don't know. I ran away from home. That seemed kind of foolish, right? So I came home. I didn't even go very far, right? But don't think I don't want to get up on that fucking highway sometimes, because I do. But, and in those days, right, I always, I'd be like, we'd be arguing, especially after Joan moved in. I'd be like, fuck John, if you ever, when you die and I die, and you come to me and you want to live in my house after death, this is after death, people. I told him, you're never fucking coming back in with Joan. You're going to have 2 houses, John. You're going to live with me, and you can do like the good old days. You can go hop on the fucking bus and go visit Joan, and you can spend time with Joan, and then you can come back home. Right? Because I will never, ever fucking live with Joan again. I gave her the one chance, and it was a nightmare. And I'm not going back into Joan's fucking nightmare. She's at the bottom of the bowels of a fucking Catholic church. Trust me, she's in a dungeon. Okay? So I'm not interested in that. If that's where John wants to settle his bones, for the rest of his eternity, that's his business. But you know what? I'm not dead yet. So I bet you the minute I die, John will be knocking on the door. Right? Why do I feel that that's what's going to happen, people? Whereas with Shimei, it's more lost. Is it because she died in the house in the basement and there's no closure? Where's her spirit? I mean, obviously I'm going to connect to her because she's dead. If I can connect to Uncle John in an instant, the minute I die, and he's knocking on my door saying, let me in, I've been with Joan too long in that fucking dungeon, I need a breather. I'd be like, okay, as long as she lives in her house and I live in my house, we're good to go. You can hang out here for a while, and when you're ready to go back and hang out with Joan, I'm comfortable with that. It worked really well for us. For how many years did we function as a functioning family around those principles? For years, people. For years, until fucking money got involved and destroyed Uncle John's life. If Uncle John didn't have that fucking inheritance or that supposed superannuation life insurance policy, none of what happened to him would have happened. But when I go, he's going to be the first one there. And I know Shmei is standing with him and they're together, but I don't know. I just don't feel as strong with it. Is it because what is it? What is it? I don't, is it because there's too much I have to do first on earth before I can connect with her up there after I leave? Right? Well, wherever you go, it doesn't have to be up there. It could be a straight line, right? Just wherever your soul goes, it's going to go somewhere. And it's going to connect to something. And I know Uncle John will be knocking on the door saying, let me in. First time he comes back home, I might have to throw him out. And then he'll come back, and then he'll never leave. Because that's what happened when he first moved in. He moved himself. He wanted me to help him get a place. I tried to do that, but because of his eyesight and his bad legs, he ended up jamming out. And then he said, let's get a house together, because I can't live with Joan and her mental illness and what was going on with Debbie at the time and all that. And I had 3 kids. And the house sounded pretty... I was already in a house. I was in a small little house. And then I moved into an apartment. And that's when he was going to jump out the fucking balcony of his apartment. He was badgering me. And I said, okay, we'll get a house. So we got this house. It was old 1920 home with beautiful, beautiful, beautiful big bay windows in them. Oh, I love those windows, man. And within the first day or 2 or 3 or whatever it was after I moved us into that house, I went out and I came back with a man. And I don't know, Uncle John just went nuts. I don't know what his problem was. And we ended up fighting. And he liked to chase me. And because I have long hair, he'd pull my hair. Because he grope, right? He was chasing. Because in those days, he was taking medicines. And it'd make him fucking loopy, right? I didn't know that. It made him kind of violent. Sometimes he would attack me, right? And that night, he was running around chasing me. And that man was hiding underneath the couch. And this guy was like 6 foot, right? John and I are going back and forth from room to room. And he's fucking grabbing on my hair, pulling me down, and we're rolling around. Oh man, I'm telling you, people, by the time that fucking shit was done, I grabbed all his fucking shit and I threw it out the fucking door onto the grass. I called a taxi, called his wife, told his wife I'm sending him back home and to fucking keep him. And he went home with his bag. Whatever, the taxi driver helped him pick up all his fucking clothes, drove him off back to Joan's house. And you know what that woman did? That woman, she sent him back to me, people. He just showed up back at the fucking door. She liked being alone. And then he was just going back and forth visiting. It was like that for 23 years. Not my fault, people. That's what they wanted. But then she got sick and she couldn't live on her own anymore. And she couldn't even deal with being assisted living. She needed someone in the house with her all the time. And Uncle John asked me to bring her over and I said, sure. Anything to keep you happy, John. Well, he's with her now, but I know when I die, he'll be knocking on my door, and she'll probably be saying good riddance too, and I get a break now. because that's the kind of symbiotic relationship that we all had. Only I'm the one that got left with the bills and the house. With the responsibilities as I'm losing my children, people. And with Shimei, you know, I don't feel as, I guess the point of that is, I don't feel as confident with reconnecting with Shimei as I do with Uncle John when I die. Why I don't feel like that, I don't know. Other than there's too much I have to do around getting justice for Shimei. Right? But yeah, no, I mean, I never really thought about it, and if I did, it was only in passing. But if that man would have known that Amari is the way he is before he murdered Shimei, would he have murdered Shimei? Because the only next best thing to murder somebody would be from passion, in terms of, you cheated on me even though we're not together. Never mind with your ex-boyfriend, who my sister's been dating with for the last 2-3 years. As long as you've been dating me, my sister's been dating your ex-boyfriend. But really, the sister should never have dated the ex-boyfriend out of respect to her brother. Not to mention out of respect to Shimei. But that's the game. And that's the court game that I'm going through with Amari. It's not about what's in the best interest of Amari, per se, right? It's about who can win. In death do we part. So now I'm going to turn this off. Just something to think about. And then I'm going to just go to my boxes of food. I'm going to videotape. I'm getting kind of tired, but if I really need to, Tisha's around today, I can take a nap, right? And I'm going to gear up for this big cookout for the next few days. But I get lots of food prepared. And but before I do that, I'm going to show you I'm going to show you the food. I'm going to show you some of the food. Hold on. Okay. Do you see? All kinds of stuff in here. This is a big box. How big this box is. Look at this bag of beans, people. This is what I mean. I paid $2. Do you see this? $2. Look how many beans are in there. That's a lot of beans for $2. Alright. I'll show you what else. Hold on. Now, keep in mind, I've already put a few in the fridge. Right? Some things, like these apples here, these oranges, these apples, I paid full price. These apples, obviously not. I got those ones for $2.50. These ones are running in almost at $4 for 4 apples, right? Each per bag. And then, of course, the oranges are expensive. But look at this, $1. $1. Look at my parsnips for $1. Can you see this? Like, look! For $1, people. That's parsnips. I got more. This one, the bag is not as full, but it doesn't matter. It's parsnips. Good for Amari. And then there's more stuff in there, right? And I put already a bit in the fridge. Okay? It's like, wait till you see what's going to happen with it.